عن جد ما بقى عارفين شو بدنا نعمل. نحن كشعب لبناني اللي نحن أي بلد منسافر عليه ومنقول إنه لبنانية بيرفعوا لنا القبعة. بلدنا عم بيذلنا، حكامنا بالأحرى عم بيذلونا. فبدنا منكن لو سمحتوا يا هالدولة الكريمة حلول سريعة لنرجع نمشي ببر الأمان.
Nabiha Haddara on Facebook Live. What's the topic today about revolution? Revolution entails not only mass mobilization and regime change, but also more or less rapid and fundamental social, economic and or cultural change during or soon after the struggle for state power. Jack Goldstein defines a revolution as an effort to transform the political institutions and justification for political authority in society, accompanied by formal or informal mass mobilization and non-institutionalized actions that undermine authorities. Political and socio-economic revolutions have been studied in many social sciences, particularly sociology, political sciences, and history. Among the leading scholars in the area have been or are Crane Brinton, Charles Brockett, Farida Farhi, John Foran, John Mason Hart, and too many. Scholars of revolutions like Jack Goldstein differentiate four current generations of scholarly research dealing with revolutions. The scholars of the first generations, such as Gustav Le Bon, Charles R. Elwood, or Peterim Sorokin, were mainly descriptive in their approach, and their explanations of the phenomena of revolutions was usually related to social psychology, such as Le Bon's crowd psychology theory. A second generation theorists sought to develop detailed theories of why and when revolutions arise, grounded in more complex social behavior theories. They can be divided into three major approaches: psychological, sociological, and political. The works of Ted Robert Gurr, Evoque, Rosalind, and others followed theories of cognitive psychology and frustrations, aggression theory, and saw the cause of revolution in the state of mind of the mass. And while they varied in their approach as to what exactly caused the popular to revolt, example modernization, recession, or discrimination, they agreed that the primary cause for revolutions was the widespread frustration with socio-political situation. The second group, composed of academics such as Chalmers, Johnson, and others, what they did, they saw society as a system in equilibrium between various resources, demand and subsystems, political, cultural, etc. As psychological schools, they differed in their definitions of what causes disequilibrium. They agreed that is a state of the sphere disequilibrium that is responsible for revolutions. Finally, the third group, which included writers such as Charles Tiley, Samuel, and Peter, and Arthur followed the path of political sciences and looked at powers of pluralist theory and interest group conflict theory. This series see events as outcomes of a power struggle between competing interest groups. In such a model, revolutions happen when two or two groups cannot come to terms within a normal decision make process traditionals for a given political system and simultaneously have enough resources to employ force in pursuing their goals. As we've read about revolutions, there are too many series researched of too many researchers or series followed what's the meaning of revolution. Many such early studies of revolutions tended to concentrate on four classic cases, famous and uncontroversial example that fit virtually all definitions of revolutions, such as the Glorious Revolutions in 1688, the French Revolution 1789 to 1799, the Russian Revolutions of 1917, and the Chinese Revolution, also known in the Chinese Civil War 1927 to 1949. In his The Anatomy of Revolution, however, the Harvard historian Karen Brinton focused on the English Civil War, the American Revolution, the French Revolution, and the Russian Revolutions. In a time, scholars began to analyze hundreds of other events as revolutions, and differences in definitions and approaches gave rise to new definitions and explanations. The theories of the second generation have been criticized for their limited geographical scope, difficulty in empirical verification, as well as that while they may explain some particular revolutions, they did not explain why revolutions did not occur in other societies in very similar situation. The criticism of the second generation led to the rise of a third generation of theories with writers such as Theda, Skopol, and others expanding on the old Marxist class conflicts approach, turning their attention to rural agrarian state conflicts with autonomous elites and the impact of interstate economic and military competitions on domestic political change. From the late 1980s, a new body of scholarly work began questioning the dominance of the third generation's theories. The old series were also dealt a significant blow by new revolutionary event that could not easily explained by them. The Iranian and Nigeria revolution, Nicaragua revolution of 1979, the 1986 People Power Revolution in the Philippines, and the 1989 Autumn of Nations in Europe saw multi-class coalitions topple seemingly powerful regime amidst popular demonstration and mass strikes in non-violent revolution. Defining revolution as a mostly European violent state versus people and class struggles, conflicts was no longer sufficient. The study of revolutions thus evolved in three directions. Firstly, some researchers were applying previous or updated structuralist theories of revolutions to events beyond the previously analyzed mostly European conflicts. Secondary scholars called for greater attention to conscious agency in the form of ideology and cultural in shaping revolutionary mobilization and objectives. Third, analysts of both revolutions and social movement realized that these phenomena have much in common, and a new fourth generation literature on on continuous politics have developed that attempt to combine insight from the study of social movement and revolutions in hope of understanding both phenomena. Further, social science research on revolution primarily worked in political science has begun to move beyond individual or comparative case studies toward large and empirical studies assessing the causes of implication of revolutions. Initial studies generally rely on the poly-project data on democratization. Such analyses like those by interline revolution have also been approached from anthropological perspectives, drawing on Victor Turner's writing on ritual and performance. Economist Douglas he argued that it is much easier for revolutionaries to alter formal political institutions such as laws and constitutions than to alter informal social conventions. According to North, inconsistencies between rapidly changing form institutions and slow changing informals ones can inhibit effective socio-political change. Because of this, the long-term effect of revolutionary political restructuring is often more moderate than the ostensible short-term effect. We talked about revolution and how researchers or theories argued and stated about revolution. There are too many revolutions in our decade. There is difference between each revolution and ideas. Nabiha Haddara on Facebook Live. The topic is about revolution.
عن جد ما بقى عارفين شو بدنا نعمل. نحن كشعب لبناني اللي نحن اي بلد منسافر عليه ومنقول انه لبنانية بيرفعوا لنا القبعة. بلدنا عم بيذلنا، حكامنا بالاحرى عم بيذلونا. فبدنا منكم لو سمحتوا يا هالدولة الكريمة حلول سريعة لنرجع نمشي ببر الأمان.